The second case study looks at IKEA and their move into the Russian market. The topics highlighted in this case study will include the challenges of entering a new market, the threat posed by corruption, and how important it is for a company to constantly adapt as market conditions change. We'll start off with a quick look at the two main elements of our story. IKEA was started in the 1950s and introduced its signature flat packing in 1957. Today, IKEA has around 350 stores in 30 countries. According to Statistica.com, IKEA stores had 957 million store visits worldwide in 2018. IKEA defined their vision as to create a better everyday life for the many people impacted by our business. Russia is a huge market which has opened up progressively since the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991. And living standards have generally improved for most citizens since then. Corruption has, for a long time, been a potential issue for companies dealing with Russia. Transparency International recently placed Russia 138 out of 180 countries in their Corruption Perceptions Index. The UK were 11th. IKEA opened its first Russian store in Khimki, about 20 miles north of Moscow, in 2000. The opening was a huge success, with around 40,000 shoppers on the first day, queuing for hours and blocking the roads around the store. Prior to IKEA, Russian homeowners basically had two choices: expensive furniture for the elite and cheap, poor quality furniture for everybody else. So IKEA were coming into the market with something that was genuinely new: good quality, stylish furniture at affordable prices. Their business model was also very different to anything seen previously in Russia. They encouraged people to touch and try the furniture, to sit on sofas and lie on mattresses. They put a lot of emphasis on customer service. They had a highly selective recruitment process, or perhaps more accurately, they were in the fortunate position of being able to be highly selective, and they took on 400 people out of 16,000 applicants. And they sent some of the people that they called core employees to train in overseas stores. They had a playroom for children. They even offered coffee to early morning shoppers. And these were things that the average Russian shopper would never even have dreamed about before IKEA opened. IKEA opened a second store within 12 months and reported sales of over $100 million in the first year, which was 3 times more than they predicted. So if you add all that together, you would think that they would be absolutely guaranteed to make a healthy profit very quickly. But if you dig a bit deeper, IKEA had very high setup costs. They were bringing something completely new to the Russian market, and something big. They weren't just opening a small store in a shopping mall. Russia also imposed a 25% tariff on imported furniture, and in the first few years, IKEA only made 13% of its furniture locally, so the rest had to be imported. According to a case study from the IBS Centre for Economic Research, IKEA needed to be producing 30% of its products locally in order to turn a profit. So in 2002, IKEA started work on a manufacturing plant near St. Petersburg to reduce the amount of imported items in their Russian stores. And according to Russia Today, IKEA were making 60% of its Russian product range by 2016. I mentioned Russia's reputation regarding corruption at the start, and there have been many accounts of officials from tax, fire, safety, health and utility departments identifying problems in IKEA stores that could miraculously be rectified with payments or by appointing certain local contractors to undertake the work. Apparently, several weeks before IKEA's Khimki store opened, they were asked by a local utility company to pay a bribe to get the electricity connected. but instead IKEA hired large diesel generators to power its store. In 2009, officials in Samara refused to allow a store to open because its walls were not deemed capable of withstanding hurricane-force winds. But again, miraculously, this could be fixed really quickly if a particular local construction company was hired to deal with these alleged deficiencies. Finally, in 2009, IKEA halted its expansion in Russia, saying it was tired of being conned by corrupt officials, and it hasn't opened any large stores there since. We did raise the question in the course of what exactly constitutes an act of corruption. 2 senior IKEA executives in Russia were fired in 2010 because they allowed a contractor to pay a bribe to an electricity company official, even though the executives themselves did not personally benefit from this arrangement. But that's the price you have to pay if you work for a company with a zero tolerance of corruption. As an aside, IKEA identified an opportunity for a completely new business model when they set up in Russia. They noticed that the mere presence of an IKEA store quickly pushed up the value of the surrounding land. So they decided to buy and develop these areas into larger commercial complexes. They invited in other retailers, often other international brands, and built leisure and entertainment facilities. And you can see how this would be attractive to other international companies, who could use this to get a foothold in this huge market, and almost under the protection of IKEA, who would by then have worked out the complexities of setting up in this slightly intimidating market. So IKEA expanded their furniture concept into a much wider shopping and entertainment experience. Today, IKEA Centres is IKEA Group's global shopping centre company, which operates in 15 countries. IKEA continues to grow and adapt in Russia. In 2018, IKEA opened its first small format shop in Moscow, with plans to open several more. And these are a combination of interior design studio and order taking outlet. So really very different from the large furniture megastores that we're all familiar with. An IKEA spokesman said, "Russian consumer preferences have recently changed. They are not always ready to spend extra time getting to the IKEA store." So a really good example here of responding to customers' needs. Also in 2018, IKEA announced that they plan to open up 100 pickup points across Russia to provide a better service to its online customers, who now account for about 8% of its Russian turnover. And in October 2018, IKEA announced that they were in discussions with Russia Post to deliver IKEA goods around Russia. So again, examples of adapting to customers' changing needs. Today, IKEA look to be doing pretty well in Russia. According to their website, they have 14 stores, 14 shopping centres and manufacturing and distribution facilities in Russia. In autumn 2018, IKEA opened their first store in India, in Hyderabad. A business as big as IKEA can't afford to stand still. So perhaps some of their experiences in Russia will be invaluable here in helping them meet their new growth target of 25 Indian stores by 2025.